Hey, Joe Martin here. You've seen our commercials over the years, and you may be wondering, what's in it for me? Well, ITI Technical College has been selected by Forbes magazine as a top 32-year college. But even more than that, the reason we do this is you. Our tagline is, for a better life, and we mean that, for you to be able to have the life you've always dreamed about, to do the things for your family you've always dreamed about. And it can begin here, where we are dedicated to your success, because here at ITI,
This is Sports 225 with Lee Feinswag, and I'm Lee Feinswag. We're in our 24th year, if you count Sports Monday and Sports 225, and the only way that could happen is, well, it's my show.
My best friend, Lee Feinswag, look at the Christmas.
Sports 225 is brought to you by Breck. And now, me.
Exactly. Good to take.
Well, this is last week's regularly scheduled guest. Glenn Guilbeau is here. Oh, we teased you on, at your expense last week because Matt Moscona was kind enough to come out of the bullpen because Glenn got pulled away at the last minute, and Matt came in and then
That was the Saints press conference, Sean Payton season ender.
Which he really didn't reveal much or say much, did he?
Well, no, I mean, nothing really newsworthy, but it was really interesting. He talked about what he did after the loss. He watched Netflix and ate ice cream. I'm sure he drank too.
Yeah, I would hope.
I thought that was kind of interesting. It was good to see that side of him. He's allowing you to see more sides of Sean. It's interesting. But I owe you and Matt Moscona beers, for sure.
Well, and we'll take you up on that for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So Matt was kind enough to fill in last week for Glenn, and Matt might have come on this week anyway in the rotation that we have, but so Glenn's here. Anyway, Glenn, of course, is the sports writer for the Gannett News Service, which his stuff appears not only in USA Today, but locally in Lafayette and the other Gannett News Service-owned or affiliated newspapers in the area, and he covers LSU and some Saints stuff. So you got all, Saints happy. Did you keep an honest, biased
I did.
look at things? Is it fair for me to say that there are a lot of journalists, mostly in television, who lost a lot of credibility with the Saints the last month?
I don't think so. Well, I didn't see. I might not have seen everything you're saying. So, but the writers in the state, I think, kept it objective. Particularly, there was a great piece by Josh Katzenheim at the Times-Picayune, the 7 myths of the pass interference call. He really made it clear, but it was an obvious bad call. So,
no doubt.
So there's nothing wrong with strong opinions or strong stories on that and making fun of the call. I mean, but the fact that those guys were from Los Angeles has nothing to do with it. There was a petition by Rams fans before the game saying they didn't want those guys refereeing the game because they were 0-8 with that crew. And when one of the refs looks like he's telling the other ref not to throw the flag, when actually he was telling Sean Payton to get off the field, so that was kind of a myth there.
One of the things that I maintain is that, and I may have said this last week in talking to Matt, and I got asked about it yesterday. I talked to somebody about it, but I think that there was 2 officials with perfect sight lines of that play, and they're both looking at it, and there was that 1 in a million chance that both of them, through the little prism that they see with, both saw it in real time as a clean play.
I don't think so. I think they just kind of froze. I think they just choked. They had that little moment where they froze, and they just missed it. Okay, and because unlike a lot of calls, that call was pass interference from every angle, and it was pass interference live, it was pass interference in slow motion, and it was pass interference on replay from every angle. So I think they just blew it. But the big mistake was none of the other refs and none of the refs in the booth had the presence of mind and guts and intelligence to say, hey, let's huddle up and do the right thing here. Even though that's technically not what they're supposed to do, by breaking a little rule, they could have stopped a terrible thing from happening and really made the whole NFL look bad, because unlike some of these LSU calls that almost every game, the whole world thought this was a bad call, whereas some of the LSU calls, just kind of the LSU people thought they were bad.
Well, there were 2 things that happened right after the play, and yes, even in real time, it looked like interference for sure, but it's still bang bang. And the receiver never did what all receivers do. He didn't go through all the gyrations, call for the flag.
Okay.
All he did was get up and hustle back to the huddle.
Yeah. Well, that
he didn't even go like, "Hey, I just got hit," without a chance to catch the ball.
I think maybe because he thought it was so obvious. But here's the real tell: the cornerback nickel.
Yeah.
Who
he looked guilty as hell, didn't he?
As soon as he did it, he's looking around for a flag, and he even said that after the game. He said, "Yeah, I'm looking around for the flag." And then one of the reporters showed him the play on a cell phone, and he said, "Oh, hell yeah, that's interference." So when you got the guy who did it being that honest about it, it's obviously completely wrong. And yeah, I heard some people saying, "Oh, the receiver should have, acted like he was hurt or anything," but the receiver was being honest. He wasn't doing the flop like we see so often, and that's dishonest, So he was just being normal, It was just terrible on many levels.
What was it like in post game and subsequently writing the story? Because at least it was an early game for you.
Well, it was kind of early that became late because it was overtime, but it was it was weird. It was kind of a delayed thing because right when it happened, you thought, dang, they missed that, but you still kind of thought the Saints were going to win, and then they went right on with the next play, and then you're in overtime, and the Saints won the toss. So it was kind of a delayed thing, and then when they lost, and people kind of went back to the play, but and this business about they could have won the game here and they could have won the game there. That's all true, but that call was really at a critical time. I mean, it changed the game. That much like the call against LSU in overtime that they ruled an incomplete pass when it was a fumble. The A&M player tucked it after the Grant Delpit hit. That was definitely a fumble. So if they call that one right, the game ends right there immediately because that was the second overtime and LSU had scored in the first overtime. So the game's over. So this situation wasn't quite that, but it really was close because they'd have got a first and goal at the 6, and they could have ran a few plays, kicked a field goal, and there probably wouldn't have been enough time, or they may have scored a touchdown. So it really changed the outcome of the game dramatically. That's why it was so bad, and it was really I think it's the worst call in NFL history since the Holy Roller by Stabler in '78 at San Diego. And that was a regular season game early.
Is that the one the receiver was Dave Casper?
Yeah, he kicked the ball accidentally on purpose, and Stabler and they changed the rule after that. An offense couldn't advance a fumble in the last couple of minutes inside the 20 or something. Was the new rule.
All right, well,
it was really bad.
Hold that thought.
Okay.
A whole segment about that call, and it was like 3 weeks ago. Anyway, Glenn Guilbeau's here. You can go back, follow him on Twitter at LSU Beat Tweet, and you can go back and read his stories from that account. And I can assure you that they were balanced and with a good perspective.
Sometimes stories don't have the other side. That was one of the cases where it really didn't have much of another side.
There you go. All right, we got to take this break. We're way over in this segment. I'm Lee Feinswag, Sports 225.
Hi, I'm the human dislike button. You may recognize me as the guy who enforces rules at Breck Parks. Check out my amazing presentation. Did you know? Motorized vehicles are not allowed in Breck Parks. Sales and solicitation are prohibited without permission from Breck. And my favorite rule, keep Breck Parks clean by placing all trash in trash cans. Come on, you can do this. For more information about these and other Breck rules, please visit breck.org/HDB.
Back on Sports 225, hanging out with my buddy Glenn Guilbeau. He's a sports writer for the Gannett News Service who covers LSU, the SEC, used to cover the Saints, but their season's over, and now you're just thinking of things to do. But yeah, you told me last week at LSU basketball you saw Dale Brown, who I haven't personally visited with in a while. We've done the wave, and I haven't seen him. I haven't been able to go to as many home games lately as I like. I've been traveling a lot.
Well, it was a great game, LSU Arkansas. I mean, it ended badly, but LSU had a great comeback. It was an exciting game. It was a throwback to the Nolan Richardson, Dale Brown games, and it was cool because Mike Anderson mentioned that because he was an assistant for Nolan Richard, the Arkansas coach. And he said, I saw Dale Brown today, and it reminded me of those games. And I was like filing my first story, which I do minutes after the game ends. And I was like the only one on press row right there in the front because everybody else had gone down. And Dale was walking by, and he goes, "Glenn, the game's over." And I didn't know who it was at first because my head was down. I looked up, and it was Daddy Dale. He looks great. You know, was he 81 now?
Dale's amazing. But, you know, I was the LSU basketball beat writer for a long time, and especially during the Arkansas glory years when Arkansas won the 1994 national championship.
Right after they entered the SEC.
But the first time we went up there, the 92-93 season.
Yeah, I was there.
It was just amazing.
That was in Barnhill.
Yeah,
the older.
Well, and I still have the T-shirt the night they closed down Barnhill.
Yeah,
you know,
Dale spoke to the fans.
Well,
after
Dale
the game.
came back in during the ceremonies after his press conference. He goes back into the arena,
takes the
and
mic.
asks, "Can I have the microphone?" And then addresses the Arkansas crowd. And let me tell you something. You can talk all you want about Duke and other places. If you ever get a chance to go to Arkansas, to Barnhill Arena, the new place, when they're good, it is the most fabulous place to watch.
Is it better than the old place?
Way better.
Because it's bigger.
It's big. It's a beautifully designed.
That old place was something.
It was cool, though, but it's a beautifully designed arena. The band, when they call in the Hogs, is really fun and funny, and the fans are great. You know, they have like 90 private jets that fly in for Arkansas home basketball games. I mean, Arkansas basketball is a big deal when they're good, like with any team. But, oh, gosh.
That was such a great game. And then you had the game where Shaq got fouled by Oliver Miller. They didn't call it, and they went into overtime. And Nolan said, I saw contact. We're in Barnhill.
I see. Nolan, whose hair is whiter than mine, but back in the day, he used to dye his hair. And he looked worse than James Brown on CBS. Okay, he looks like he's wearing a little helmet. But Nolan used to, so we're at SEC Media Days one year, and he's just in the middle of his opening speech and talking, you know, in this big writers' auditorium, you know, and he stops and he looks up and he goes, "When are you going to start dyeing your hair?" He just points to me like that.
Wow. That game you're talking about, that first LSU game in Arkansas, Scooter Hobbs and I was in Alexandria. He was in Lake Charles. We met in Shreveport. We met Scott Farrell in Shreveport, and one of his desk men, Bobby Joe was his name. And we drove from Shreveport to Fayetteville, and man, that was a rough ride. And it was January. It was bad weather. And, you know, Scott Farrell just got laid off by Gannett in Shreveport.
Oh, no. He was one of the ones?
One of the best.
There's been a lot of bloodletting in journalism. And let me tell you something. And it's, you know.
Great guy, great journalist.
Oh, yeah. And the things that are happening in the media business should concern all of you, especially on the local levels where local media holds people accountable. Mayors, governors, senators, congressmen, sheriffs, Department of Works. Yeah, and I'm not even going with sports, you know, just the other stuff. It should be a great concern to you and everyone.
Kevin Foote is leaving the Lafayette Advertiser.
But going to the Advocate.
Yeah, he's worked there since high school.
Yeah, yeah. The Advocate put out a thing that they're expanding their Lafayette and Acadiana.
Yeah, and
coverage.
they've tried that before, and it's failed, and they've given up. But they're trying again, and Kevin Foote is a key cog in that, and Kristen Askelson, a great editor too, and some other reporters. We've bonded together at the Advertiser too after those losses, and
sounds very sports-like.
But we have we had a meeting after they left, and one of the photographers said, "This is war," and I was like, "Whoa! I didn't expect that, especially from a photographer, you know." But it's going to be interesting.
All right, I'll leave this with this on this segment. So, a friend of mine who knows college basketball and knows LSU basketball said to me the other day, Tremont Waters is the third best guard in LSU history after Pete Maravich and Chris Jackson. I said,
I like Ethan Martin.
Me too. That's the first thing I said.
Ethan wasn't the scorer that Tremont was.
But I said, I really got to think about this and research it. But I maintain for the first half of the year, he's on pace to be the SEC Player of the Year if he has the same second half as the first half.
Daryl Mitchell was pretty good too.
I know, but it's so funny. Those are the two ones that I said, you know, in the subsequent conversation.
Tremont's up there, though. I would say I wouldn't put him close to Pete or Chris.
Of course, no,
he's not close. But and you know, Ethan was such a great point guard, and
you know, in the 1986 season when LSU went to the Final Four, John Williams was actually a guard for that team, even though he was
Derek
listed
Taylor
as a
was
forward.
good that year too.
Yeah.
But Tremont is very good, and he's big in the steals and assists too, and he even gets some rebounds. You know, he had 7 rebounds the other night.
Kid's a big time gamer.
Yeah,
gamer.
Yeah, and he blew that play at the end. I think he just got caught up in the moment, and if it would have worked, everybody would have went wild.
Yeah.
But he threw it a little too high, and he probably shouldn't have done it.
He's not afraid to take a shot or make an aggressive pass.
And you got to give him that. You got to give him some slack because he deserves it. It's not like he's some sub going in there and like Ben Voog throwing that play.
Whoa! Blasting my boy from Oregon. He's Glenn Guilbeau. He writes for the Gannett News Service. I'm going to go to break on that and keep him from getting into any more trouble. Oh, my. Next thing you know, you'll be talking about Danny Moskowitz or whatever, one of those old LSU guys. Don't even go. I'm Lee Feinswag at Sports 225, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm the human dislike button. You may recognize me as the rules guy for Breck Parks. Sometimes the rules slip past us, so I put together this amazing presentation. Did you know? Golf practice is only allowed at designated golf facilities. Firearms, explosives, and weapons are not allowed on Breck property. Metal detecting is allowed in some parks, but go to Breck's website to learn more about this and other park rules. For more information, visit breck.org/HDB.
Back on Sports 225. Glenn Guilbeau's here with me. I got one for you.
Okay.
So the temperature today, we're shooting this on Wednesday, okay? And first airing is Friday morning on CST, and then Saturday is on Cox 4 Yearview. So it's supposed to hit 80 today, the temperature.
Wow.
It's supposed to hit 80, okay? At the minimum, high 70s.
Wow.
Tomorrow, I'm going to Calgary, Alberta. Got to go up there for the weekend.
Is that North Louisiana?
Yeah,
Okay.
way north Louisiana.
Okay.
And the temperature, the high on Saturday, the high is supposed to be -8.
Oh,
that's not wind chill. And the low Saturday night is -20.
Wow.
And I told my boys up there, I'm going to go see. I said, I have never been in temperatures that cold. Now I know for sure, I think I've been in double-figure minus digits. And I went to college at Syracuse my first couple of years. And when it gets down to like 5 or 6 below, you can spit and watch it. It'll actually bounce. But if it's dry and it's not real windy and it's sunny, it's somewhat bearable if you have all the right clothes. But I can't even imagine -20. I mean, I've got all the clothes, but I don't think it's going to matter.
Somebody was saying like it was -30 last week in Chicago.
Wind chill, though.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
But they were saying that if you didn't blink enough, your tear ducts could freeze.
Yeah.
What does that feel like?
Well, I don't know.
I don't want to know, man.
One of my guys writes back, he goes, Lee, the first thing you do is you get your car, you drive to Walmart and buy yourself some extra long johns. Don't turn the car off. And he said, and don't let your eyes freeze. And I don't know if he's being funny or what.
Yeah, man. That's when you just stay in the house, man.
And of course, I had to make sure to remind them that I had to walk the dogs yesterday in shorts, T-shirts, and a flip-flops.
Yeah, you don't really need to walk. They'll be all right.
Yeah, I do. Glenn and I compared dog notes. We'll do that later. Your favorite time of year, football signing time. Don't you love it? You live for this.
It is so cool that they got the early signing date in December.
You missed the Bayou Bash, don't
because
you?
this is nothing. I mean, LSU's going to sign LSU signed a couple of guys on Wednesday, Sofser and Lee from a meet. That was the expectation, which would have put them at about probably number 3 in the nation. Very good class. But it's so cool because it's dissipated, it's diluted, and I think it's good that the kids don't get as much attention when everything is in February, because in December there's a lot of other stuff going on. NFL, the bowl season is going on in college, and it gets a little on the back burner, which is where it belongs, because I think it just gets way too much attention.
Did we have anybody who said that they're going to the University of Louisiana State this year?
I know that's the other thing. They get too much camera time. They're too young. And there's just too much coverage of it.
Well, there's been
really
some great moments, like the kid from Dutchtown whose mother got mad at him.
Oh,
He plays in
yeah.
the NFL now.
Landon Collins?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been some other family squabbles on the stage. I was at that awful Under Armour game in St. Petersburg a couple years ago because LSU played a bowl nearby. And, the guys are playing in a game, and then they're on TV during the game talking about where they signed. It just felt dirty coming out of there.
Do you remember the first time you covered something like this? Because, for the first part of your career, we really didn't pay attention to
right, that's how it should have
signings and
been.
recruiting. Do you remember because I remember my first one was Fess Irvin announcing he was going to LSU to play basketball. He was an EA kid, and it was in the City Hall in Gonzales, and I could tell you stories about that, but I won't. Anyway, but do you remember the first one you covered like that?
I remember covering a signing day. I was at the Tiger Rag, and they had like a signing day in the L Club where Dale Brown used to hold his basketball press conferences. And I remember George Morris writing about it for the State Times at the time, about how, and they had fans in there, you know, and there was a fan jumping up and down cheering at a fax coming in on a fax machine. And then you know, and it's great. Louisiana, they throw a party for everything. You know, this Saints party they had over the weekend.
They were lucky it was a nice day.
Bowl.
They were lucky it wasn't a rainy day.
I mean, but they drew a great crowd out there, and this Bayou Bash was really something for a while. You know, this big party on recruiting day, and the coaches used to come and talk, but it was kind of getting. You know, it was not as fun as the years went by because there was no drama to it, and then that finally ended when they had the early signing day.
The last one I covered was the year the Saints went to the Super Bowl, and Glenn had to leave town, and they got me to freelance it.
Yeah,
and
that was great. I remember
it was like I wanted to hang myself. But you know, I'll leave you with this: I have always maintained that if the Saints left New Orleans, if they just disappeared and left, there would be zero impact on that city. They would fill those times with extra conventions.
Oh, that's
nobody
not
would.
true.
No, wait.
I know what you're saying.
No, wait. Let me
they
finish.
Still have a lot.
And this past Sunday absolutely proves it because they weren't even playing and they had a big gathering. See, they don't need football games.
Well,
I get the last word because we have to go to break. We're late. I'm Lee Feinswag at Sports 225.
Parks close at dark.
You want another?
I think they'll pass. Amplified music and sound is prohibited without permission from Breck. No alcoholic beverages on Breck property. Smoking of tobacco products is not allowed. Use of fire is prohibited except in grills. Gotta remember, Breck wants you to have fun, but in the right way. For more info, go to breck.org/HDB.
Coming down the home stretch of another Sports 225, show number 258, which if you put them all together with all the Sports Mondays, we're getting close to 1,000, and I'll never know exactly when that'll be because I lost track of the Sports Mondays. But anyway, that's here nor there. Thanks to John Williams from Think JCW for directing the show, Think JCW for all sorts of good stuff. Look them up on the interwebs. Go to sports225.com for the show listings of when we're on, CST and Your View, and Glenn Guilbeau's here, and he wants a rebuttal, so I got to give him that about the Saints if they magically disappeared.
I think New Orleans would recover better from losing an NFL team than, say, Green Bay or a lot of cities, because there's a lot more going on in New Orleans, and there was a lot in New Orleans before they ever had the Saints. But
the convention business, you can't underestimate how unbelievably big it is.
But it would rip the heart out of the city. But I'll say this, and it was proven again this past season with this loss, and it was proven in 2009. To me, the Saints have more followers, have a larger fan base than LSU does. I really believe that because the Saints don't have people that hate them as much as LSU does, and all colleges have that hate factor, like people in Ruston and Lafayette and New Orleans. Tulane fans, they hate LSU. And think about it, if Alabama had an NFL team that was entrenched and good, they would have more people that like that team than Alabama, because almost half the state of Alabama hates the Crimson Tide because of the Auburn people.
There you go.
So the NFL teams, they don't have that hate factor within their state. Plus the Saints have, I believe, more fans than LSU on the Gulf Coast and in Mississippi. They've always had a large following in Mississippi, and they kind of market to other areas more. But it's amazing to me. Now Shreveport is a little Dallas, but not as much as people think. But obviously they're both huge. But I think the Saints might actually have an edge.
Isn't Shreveport
over
in
LSU.
Texas, or is it in Louisiana?
Well,
and this would be my time to rail on about how we used to give the Saints $20 million. I mean, the Saints, well, they're
that
the
was
richest
wrong.
family, $20
That was
million a year.
completely wrong.
They're down to $8 million, but the state government has to rent from the Bensons at much higher than market value.
Yeah, well, hopefully they'll change that.
That'll never happen. Anyway, all right.
Mr. Benson passed away, they may be able to.
I won't see you probably. I mean, I'll see you, but you may not be on the show before the LSU spring football game. So in 30 seconds or less, what are you looking for?
In the spring game?
Yeah, because I know you live for that too.
Oh, gosh, yes. Well, I think.
Luckily for you, you're down to like 20 seconds.
Let's skip the spring game. I think LSU is going to jump from this 3-loss area they've been since 2012 into the 1 or 2-loss area next year. Still a little worried about the offensive and defensive lines, but they'll be better in the offensive line, and I think they have everything else. I think they're going to be very good this coming season.
Glenn
Because of
Guilbeau.
Burrow mainly.
Yep. Glenn Guilbeau from the Gannett News Service. Read his stuff at, the Advertiser, USA Today. You still do the New Orleans thing, the WWL?
Yes.
TV. And,
Tiger Rag Magazine.
Tiger Rag Magazine. And follow him on Twitter at LSU Beat Tweet. Thank you, sir. Always
Thank
enjoy
you.
it. And thank you for watching. I'm Lee Feinswag. This has been Sports 225.
At carnival time by Baton Rouge Bay, that's the site of my story. At Spanish Town Mardi Gras.